Hello, I'm Tracy, for anybody that hasn't met me before, and I talk as much as I can about autism, ADHD, and really lots of the different ways that I feel the world differently. But what I've started to both worry and get excited about at the same time is I'm working on a project and really looking for more collaborators. We're trying to put together as many stories of autistic people as we can, because I still think there is a massive issue with what people say they understand and what they really understand. So, for example, if I say autism, I'm going to say, what do you say? But if you're watching me, you probably understand. This is more what I want us to be going out and saying, or me. I can't ask other people to be brave and put themselves out there. And that's part of the problem, isn't it? A lot of us are really scared. So what I want to say to, and I do say to people in companies or people that I do research with is, if I say autism, what do you say? If I say autism, what do you think? Because I don't think they're the same. Can people ever care about things that don't affect them? Well, something for us to think about. If I wander out into the street now and ask a random selection of people what they think the term neurodiversity means, they will firstly panic because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, and then they'll try to say the right thing. But who decided this wrong and right? Would it be better if we took away this atmosphere of fear, of unknown rules and expectations that, if broken, could literally wreck lives? Might we then be able to discuss and learn with open attitudes and inquiring minds? Now, I love what's called the Scout mindset. It's a theory and has been written about by a lady called Julia Galef. So she says, there's a lovely TED talk by her, that a person should look around at the situation and establish the facts based on the reality. And they do this instead of immediately jumping into some sort of attack or defence position, which she calls the soldier mindset. The world that I live in now does seem to have become strewn with soldiers who are fighting battles in places that there aren't any. There was an essay by a man called Yanis, I don't know, called Groupthink. And in this, he started to explore what might happen if groups of people started to believe only their group's ideas and attitudes to be right and anyone else to be the enemy and as such worthy of attack. Well, given that I think is now a constant threat for all of us, it's hardly any wonder that people are afraid to speak, or they will only say what they think they should instead of what they really think. And if we push people into hiding, are we not doing the exact thing that ignorance about autism has done to us? Aren't we making them mask and pretend in a desperate attempt to fit in and not be seen for who they really are and what they really feel and think? Which is exactly what we are asking them to understand about us. If I ask what neurodiversity might mean, then most people will say that it refers to people who are different. Brave individuals might say it is people who are not normal, but then they will hear their own word and they start to fumble and backtrack and they get tied in knots from which they can't free themselves. The neurodiversity movement, which is now fighting among itself, wanted the term to refer to everyone. Great idea, so it should. We all have individual neurology and we are all different. But in my opinion, what they fail to recognise, and this seems to happen so much, is that this was their ideal. And why shouldn't it be? It was their desire. But nobody asked the neurotypicals what they thought about it. Now, neurotypicals, or NTs, are people who are not neurodifferent and are not autistic. Some people don't even like this label, and there's lots of controversy about this, but I talk about that lots in other posts. So, yeah, even this term evokes controversy and strong feeling, which again fails to ask them. So lots of autistic people don't like the reference to something that is typical because they say it makes us sound not typical. which I would argue is definitely the case. I'm not typical. It's something I am proud to admit and show. But they don't like being singled out as different from the norm. Really fair enough, except that they campaign for different rights and extra accommodations on the basis that their needs are different from the norm. Am I risking cancellation in saying this? Well, probably, but how is anything going to improve for us if we stop dialogue that could help us before it starts? The Oxford English Dictionary states that neurodiversity is anyone who experiences life differently to the majority or norm. Leading autism activists have told me that the dictionary is wrong. Well, wrong it may well be. Just erasing things that don't agree with our predetermined ending is not going to get us anywhere. They already think that we're weirdos who don't fit in, and they are looking for reasons to confirm that. Added to this, neurotypicals don't like being told off or told what to do. We are much more about the facts and exchange of information. We are never going to get that understood until we start explaining to them in language that they understand and are willing to listen to. And what that is, I have absolutely no idea. I thought that I did. I wrote translation guides and books and blogs and thought I would change the way that autism was understood. But they don't read them. They don't know that they exist in the same way that they don't really know that we exist. People care about things that affect them because lots of things affect them. That's exactly why we are desperate to be seen and heard for who we really are without the myths and the misunderstanding and the misconceptions. But we're always preaching to the converted. A person in the street who really understands autism will inevitably already be involved in some way. So what does autism mean? I wish I could say to people, I dare people, ask yourself and anyone around you right now. Go over to someone and ask them if they could explain what autism is. Tell them you're not the thought police and that they can say anything without fear of a jail term. I promise that unless already invested for personal and professional reasons, what you hear will demonstrate that autism is not really understood at all. And even when already involved, many professionals perpetrate some of the worst myths and misunderstanding and then act offended when we try to correct them. Sorry, my phone. That's a whole different piece, isn't it, really? So a group of us spread out across the globe have been collecting our stories. We have been listening to each other and learning about the amazing ways we all feel and see and hear the world differently. Lots of overlap and similarities, and even more that we all resonate with. Of course, we're all different, but many of our experiences are the same despite being geographically disparate. It's actually been really comforting to find a place to belong with people who understand, even if we are sharing stories of lives lived in pain and difficulty, faced with so much misunderstanding and fear. And so here I return to where I started. If you knew anything about autism, you'd have already known that the thoughts don't run in straight lines, and quite often I can see the end before the start. I might warn you of unforeseen consequences and potential problems. This never goes down well. 35-ish jobs later, I think. But then I have to sit back and wait until a point in the future when everybody realises I saw the end before we started. But probably, even if I was right, they'll still be annoyed by that because it somehow offends people when you know something. That is definitely something I would like to discuss with neurotypical folk, please, because I don't understand it and I genuinely want to learn, just like I want them to genuinely know about me. So I would like us to start a translation guide. All of us writing and collecting stories, we would love to explain autism so it might be understood for what it really is, but most definitely for what it really isn't. It would be amazing if we could ask non-autistic people about their experiences and then be allowed to share ours. How else will anything ever really change? There are plenty of specialists and academics who do this already, but many of them have no lived experience, and those that do tend to use such long words in complicated sentences that only other academics and researchers only ever read it. And added to that, most research stays behind a paywall, so it's totally inaccessible anyway. In an interview I did for the Daily Express, I explained all of this and more. The journalist wrote that autism was like being irritated. Did later apologise and recognise that I didn't use that word. But I realised that despite all of my words, she had to translate into something that she and the majority of her readers would understand. Well meant, but unfortunately and inadvertently, just another way in which autism is pushed aside by the needs of the neurotypical majority. If our stories could be heard in our voices across the world, then maybe there's a chance that society could one day become more friendly to autism. Well, this is my first piece about this project. My next video will be all about ordinary lives lived in extraordinary ways following on from this. We would love to find a way to get this published together better and to speak out, even though a lot of people are scared to speak out, and that's something I am also going to discuss. But if anybody wants to join us with open minds and scout mindset, then that would be absolutely wonderful. So till next time, I'm Tracy, and thank you for listening.